in respect for my best friend, whose life was a freaking mess as a child. I have been keeping this story inside for a very long time. I'm going to be completely honest. I have never even spoken a word to my mother before. At first, it was fear of getting social services involved. Then after they got involved anyways. I guess too long had passed and I just figured she never really would benefit any from knowing. This all happened when we were 11 years old. I'm 29 now. It all sort of feels like a surreal dream. This feels like the appropriate place to get it out. Name has changed, of course. When I was in elementary school, in Canada that's K through 6, I was an awkward child. I have high-functioning autism, and while my grades were great, my social functioning was lackluster. Still is, if I'm honest. This left me with a fairly small, very colorful group of friends, two of the closest being Jesse and Katie. I came from a fairly overprotective household. My mother watched me like a hawk, and thus I was a naive kid. I didn't really understand that a lot of the oddness and dysfunction that would come out of my two friends had to do with problems at home. We were never allowed at Katie's house. I think her mom was extremely overweight to the point of hardly being able to move, and she was embarrassed of it. Jesse's house, however, was only a few blocks away from the school. We ended up there a lot. Her parents were divorced and her mom was deaf and mute. My mom and her would communicate through notes when I would go over, and while she at first would always seem slightly erratic, there were no real red flags. When we first started going there, Jesse's mom was living with her boyfriend, as well as her boyfriend's parents. Everyone in the household was deaf with the exception of Jesse and her younger brother, but both of them had limited hearing. I think for the first year or so they were there, the boyfriend's parents kind of kept everything from getting too out of hand, but it was pretty clear it was a dysfunctional household. After they moved out of the household, it was just Jesse's mom and her boyfriend. They would often lock us in the basement when I would spend the night. It was a full apartment, so we saw it as fun freedom. But the one time they forgot to lock it and we walked in on them shoving needles under the table. Again, we were too young to understand, but we did understand that we walked in on something bad. From this point on, we would be designated to spend our sleepover nights in her garage, as it was furnished with carpets and couches. The issue with this was Jesse's mom always kept the door locked so we wouldn't interfere with their activities again. So when one of us had to use the washroom, we would have to knock on the basement window until Jesse's little brother would hear and let us in through the basement window to pee. Another issue being he was hearing impaired, thus sometimes it would take a literal hour of absolute banging on that window. We were young, and this felt as close to freedom as you could get. We didn't really understand why or that it was wrong or dangerous for Jesse's mother to do this, so I never told my mom. It kept going on. One night we were doing our normal sleepover playing Pokemon Gold, trading and battling with link cables and waiting for Jesse's mom to bring out the oven pizza she said she was cooking us literal hours ago. It was about midnight. There was no bedtime in that household, and Katie said she really had to pee. She was trying to wait for Jesse's mom to bring in the pizza so she could go through the door, but she couldn't hold it. She goes out by herself to try to rouse Jesse's little brother Aaron. We are expecting it to take her a little while, but to our surprise, she comes back extremely quick, locking the garage door behind her and latching the lift door. She looks really startled. She tells us that she was knocking to try to get Aaron's attention when she hears a rustle from the bush next to the gate going to the front yard. It takes her a minute to realize what she's looking at, but standing about 5 feet from the gate, 15 feet from the window Katie is at, is a tall man dressed completely in black. She said it seemed like he just appeared out of the darkness or like he was waiting for something. He asks her if she's managed to lock herself out while slowly taking a step towards the gate. As she gets up and takes a step back, his pace quickens towards her and she sprints back to the garage. At first, we thought she was just messing with us. We laughed and told her to stop screwing around. Then we heard it. Hard twisting of the locked doorknob. Then worse, the sound of scratching metal against the knob. He was trying to pick the lock. We stood in absolute fear for a moment, then grabbed the only pathetic things around we could use to try to defend ourselves. Then it just abruptly stopped. There were no windows in our garage and no peephole on the door. We couldn't see what was going on. We waited for about 10 minutes, having no idea where the man was, if he was still out there where her mom was or where that damn pizza had gotten to. But we were like sitting ducks in there. He had clearly failed to pick the lock, but who knows if or what he would try next. Now, this is stupid, but we were stupid, scared children. We grabbed our weapons, which consisted of glorified sticks, and we left the damn garage. At first, there was no sign of any man. We moved towards the downstairs window and started slamming on it, screaming and pleading for Aaron to open it. Again, that's when we heard it. It was in an almost sing-song, mocking voice that rang out, "Well, hello again." 3 men, all in black. The one in the middle had spoken. They made a move forward. We once again sprinted back to the garage. This time they just straight tried to kick in the door, all 3 of them stomping and kicking. It was close to giving in and then everything stopped. Jesse's mother had come out the back door, pizza in hand, and startled them. She ran back inside, got her boyfriend and his 2 other friends, users travel in packs, and they were able to chase them off with some actual weapons, I'm guessing. We were still inside the garage. We could honestly just hear it. The adults stayed in the backyard all night, weapons in hand. One person even sat on the roof with a compound bow. Yep, a compound bow. Night turned to morning and it all settled down. We never stayed at Jessie's house for sleepovers after that. She was put into the care of her grandparents shortly after. It took me a really long time to actually grasp what happened that night. But considering they never called the police, I'm fairly sure we almost got literally murdered over some drug debt Jessie's mother had. Literally can't even imagine the evils that could have gone on that night if fate wasn't on my side. Something tells me those 3 men were way too happy to find children to take as penance, and it would hardly have just been a straightforward murder. Still makes me shudder. For the weekend, I wanted to visit my boyfriend. He lives 2 hours away and I always go by train. I'm not easily spooked, but I always keep an eye out. A girl's gotta do what a girl's gotta do, am I right? 1 hour into the trip, it was around 8 p.m. then, I see 2 men getting in the same train compartment as me. I was sitting in a 2-seater. The seat next to me was empty and in front of me there was a seat for 4 people. So 2 pairs of seats facing each other. The men came in being very loud, even though it was a silent compartment. But nobody said anything because they already seemed very suspicious. From the moment they stepped into the train, probably before they got in, they had their eyes fixated on me. They stepped in through the doors and sat in the seat in front of mine, and from then on they kept an eye on me while discussing things with each other in a language I did not understand. Like every other girl, I get stared at frequently, especially when I wear my hair down. It normally makes me feel a bit awkward, but I never feel unsafe when this happens, until yesterday. But they were staring at me in every way possible. Through the chairs, standing up, sitting down, and bending over to get a good look. through the reflection of the mirror and by getting up and walking past me. They were taking turns and walking over to the other compartment of the train. The other compartment was only separated from mine with a glass door. Every time one of them got up, they both started staring at me. Then one of them went away, and the other one had clear vision of me and kept staring at me. He poked his head through the middle of the seats and offered me chocolate, which I politely refused. Then the other one came back, and 5 minutes later, the man who did not go away yet went away in the same way. They kept taking turns walking away, and every time one of them got up, the one who remained seated kept an eye on the other, and on me. Each time they were sitting across from each other, they discussed things, but I could not translate it. They kept looking at me and then started discussing again. When I had 20 minutes of my trip left, a lot of people got out at one stop. It was just me, them, and one other male then. The moment the doors were about to close, one of the creepy men started walking through the doors to check if there were people coming in, and maybe to check if there was security. I don't know why he did it, but when he came back, he scanned the train to see how many people were still on there, I think. From that moment on, they both got in seats facing me. They would not stop staring at this point. As you can imagine, I panicked and was stressed the hell out. So I slowly turned around to look behind the glass doors to see if there were more people there that could maybe help me. And to my luck, there were more people there. So I slowly and very softly put on my jacket. We still had more than 10 minutes left then. And I kid you not even 2 minutes later, one of the men starts getting dressed too. He took his bag and his jacket and kept looking at me and fixating on me while still discussing with the other man. This was where I really panicked. I already let my friends know what was going on, and my boyfriend was already at the train stop where I was supposed to get out. Then I contemplated what the smartest thing to do was, because there is an emergency number on the train that you can call or text if you feel unsafe. But I had a gut feeling that this would not help me. So I got my bags and got up and walked through the glass doors to the other compartment. I sat facing them so I could see what they were doing. They both got up and grabbed their bags and started walking towards me. Mind you, they were sitting closest to the exit, so there was absolutely no reason for them to take this route too. I rapidly started to talk to someone on the seats next from mine and asked if he could help me, because I was getting followed and watched by 2 grown men. He said he also thought they were very suspicious and was getting scared for me. He asked me to sit next to him so he could keep me a little safer and distract the men or something. Then he distracted me a little and asked me questions about my life. When the 2 creeps saw I got seated next to that man, they were already coming my way and were making their way through the doors of the compartment. They are glass doors, so we could see each other very clearly. I had not shown my fear, but I was shaking so uncontrollably that they must have seen how scared I was. The moment they got through that door, they saw me getting seated next to the other man, and the creeps exchanged looks. Looked at me, discussed something, looked at me again, turned around and went the other way again. They were walking to the exit of the train where, again, there is a glass door, so we could still see each other. The whole time they were standing around the exit, they were looking at me with a very creepy and disturbed look on their faces. I describe it as, "You got away, but you won't be lucky next time." That's how it felt. The man I was sitting next to also got the hang of this and was calming me down. He told me he was not going to let me get off the train by myself, and would wait with me until my boyfriend would arrive. That was amazing and I felt comforted. But then our stop came and we walked to our side of the exit, and then came a realization. In the exit of the train, there were 2 other men standing with the same kind of looks as the 2 creeps. They spoke the same language and they acted weird too. These men were probably the men who the two creeps visited every few minutes. The men at the exit saw me, looked at me with a creepy look, but then the man who kept me safe made sure that he walked with me, and immediately they looked away. They also covered their faces with their hoods. The doors opened and they nearly sprinted out there just like the other two creeps. Then the man who escorted me out waited with me until we found my boyfriend, and then he went on with his day. We both could not thank him enough for keeping me safe. I thought I lived in a very safe country in Europe, but I think that as long as you're a young woman on your own, you will never be 100% safe while traveling or being alone. I hate thinking about what would have happened if I was not helped by the man in the other compartment. I wish I could have thanked him with gifts or a nice gesture, but I don't know his name and will probably never see him again. To the man who saved me, I thank you with all my heart. Okay, that was a very long story, but in real time, this only lasted 1 hour. I hope people read this, and I really hope we all stay safe. Just be on the lookout for each other and help someone when you can. Thanks for reading. For those of you who frequent this sub, the fight or flight response is one that is discussed frequently. Later, this term was updated to fight, flight, or freeze to better encompass the range of human responses to acute stress. Luckily for me, I have never been a freezer. However, that doesn't mean that I always choose one of the other two responses either. Instead, when I am under stress, my brain goes into overdrive, rapidly throwing up possible solutions to my current problem. The more stressed I am, the faster it ticks. This is the story of when my brain decided on a different direction. It was early evening around 2008. I was in college walking home from class along a busy street in the crappy neighborhood that was all I could afford to live in at the time. Out of nowhere, a car pulls up right next to me and slams on the brakes. "Get in the car," the driver yells out the window at me, immediately aggressive. I take in the scene. Old, a small beat-up red car, 4 passengers, all young guys, relatively fit. I'm badly outnumbered, not good. The 2 up front are leaning forward in their seats staring at me, agitated, most likely on something. Can't see much of the guys in the back except that they're crammed in there. Front 2 are not wearing seatbelts. Really not good. On top of that, despite other people being around, I am in a neighborhood in a city where people don't stop to help, don't call the cops, and don't get involved when they witness violence or crimes. No one walking past has slowed down or even turned our way. Really, really not good. In the couple seconds it takes me to soak this in, the driver decides to fill the silence. "Get in the damn car, I said get in the damn car now. We're going to a party and you're coming with us." Even more aggressively than before. Oh boy, there goes my brain. Tick, 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 tick. This tone, this manner, this guy is expecting me to refuse. He's expecting me to get squirmy. It's like he is just waiting for me to escalate the interaction. This was before I was active online. I had never heard of incels or MRAs or any of that stuff. But this guy is acting like a guy who is sick of girls refusing his advances. He has had enough, and this time he is going to put his foot down. My brain is throwing up every possible response I can make, playing out the most likely outcome, and knocking them back down one by one. Finally it lands. Though I would not know what it was called until many years later, I had just discovered fawn mode. My face cracks into a huge smile. "Oh my god, that sounds like so much fun." Suddenly, I drop the smile to a look of devastation. "Oh no, but I can't today. I've got a dinner with my family. This sucks so much. I would so rather go to a party. But thanks for inviting me." I start slowly walking up the street, not breaking eye contact, smiling and waving, but trying to close the distance I'd have to dash if crap goes down. The car creeps along, keeping pace with me. The driver sighs. Just get in the car, far less aggressive. Oh my god, I can't believe this is working. I lean into the ditzy persona I have now adopted. I'd love to, really, I want to go so much. But my family is waiting for me up the street. But you guys are so nice. I hope you have such a good time. Next time, for sure I'll go. You guys are super fun, right? Yeah, I can tell. The driver's posture is becoming less tense. His grip on the steering wheel is more relaxed. And is that the beginning of a reluctant grin lifting the side of his mouth? He likes the flattery. Damn girl, you might just be able to talk your way out of this one yet. Yeah, you guys look super fun. A party with some cute fun guys. I'm so there, call me for the next party, yeah. Promise me you'll call me. I stick out my thumb and pinky to the side on my head and start nodding at them. You just have to call me, yeah? Passenger starts nodding back first and finally slumps back in his seat. Yeah, I keep chattering. Have so much fun though, have extra fun for me. I hate I can't be there, but promise me you'll have a great time and promise you'll call me for the next one. Driver finally leans back in his chair and smiles back. Yeah, all right, yeah, next time. And finally drives off. Dozy idiots seem to have forgotten they don't know me from Eve and don't have my number. I wave at them, wait for them to be out of sight, and finally breathe a sigh of relief. I power walk the last few hundred meters home, go upstairs and tell Matt and Lisa what happened. Probably don't need to mention that living in that city was getting old.